at least 40% of our investments as climate finance on an annual basis. And I'm pleased to say that last year, we actually realized 45%, of which for 63% was adaptation finance. That was the first of the initiatives. The second was the measures that we have ingrained in our 2021 to 2030 climate change and green growth policy framework to increase Africa's access to global climate finance to 10% from the current 4.5% by 2030. And third is the creation of the what we call AAAP, Africa Adaptation Acceleration Program, which together with GCA, we hope to mobilize an additional $12.5 billion for climate adaptation. And fourth is last year's establishment of the Climate Action Window with a target of raising up to $13 billion as a source of dedicated climate finance for Africa's 37 most climate change vulnerable countries. And fifth, as testimony of our efforts, is our leadership in advocating for the rechanneling of $100 billion of special drawing rights, which could be leveraged 3 to 4 times, and the proceeds of accruing therefrom used for climate action. You'll be pleased to note that this last recommendation was actually adopted as part of the Africa Climate Summit declaration that ended on 6th, the day before yesterday. In championing the climate and environmental action, the bank has also identified the Green Bank model as representing a broad opportunity for Africa to turn the $250 billion climate finance gap per year into investment opportunity. This is because local public or private banks have the capacity to bridge the national climate and environmental finance gap without burdening sovereign debt by facilitating access to international and international and domestic financial resources, thereby attracting private capital to green projects. To further this notion, in 2021, in partnership with the Climate Investment Funds, we launched the first scoping study on potential for a green bank or national climate change funds to support climate investment and national goals in Africa. And this eventually led to the launch of the Africa Green Banks Initiative at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in association with our partners, the Climate Investment Funds, Canada Climate Action Africa, Amundi, and the Green Bank Network. The Green Banks Initiative seeks to develop an ecosystem of local and or regional green finance facilities to promote climate resilient and eco-friendly growth on the continent. The first beneficiaries of the Africa Green Banks Initiative technical assistance pilot phase are Benin and Cote d'Ivoire through their national investment arms, CDC, I won't try to read the French, in Benin, and BNI in Cote d'Ivoire. Meanwhile, according to its NDC, Kenya needs about 17.7 billion to implement green and basically mitigation projects by 2030. Accordingly, the National Treasury and the Economic Planning State Department, through the National Treasury and Economic Planning State Department, the government of Kenya has endorsed the realization of the concept of green banking, which can be implemented by establishing a standalone institution, or which you can call the Kenya Green Investment Bank, or through hosting a green finance facility in an existing bank. The idea being that the entity will identify and prioritize investments that support a just, low transition, and sustainable development pathway. With the implementation of the concept of green banking, the government of Kenya will bolster its green credentials and sustain regional leadership in this regard. The government of Kenya can count on the unwavering support of the African Development Bank in this journey. On this note, I wish you progressive deliberations on this important subject, and thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kariuki, for those, I think, inspiring and very clear words, giving us a great overview of the concept of green banking and the work that's happening here in Kenya and through our own initiatives. Now, I'm looking to Audrey for confirmation, but the Principal Secretary from the Treasury. Is he arriving? No. So we'll move now to our virtual panel. Dr. Kariuki, I know you have a plane to catch, and therefore I'm happy to excuse you. Thank you very much. Yes, you will. Yes, well, don't worry, we will celebrate for you. So thank you very much indeed. Now, for the rest of the presentation today, we have a virtual panel. So I'm very pleased to announce that we're going to be joined by, let me just get my screen up again. We're going to be joined by Luis Tinio, who is the acting CEO for the Climate Investment Funds. Sorry, we've got a bit of an echo here. Has that gone off? Yes, okay, that's very disconcerting to hear yourself speaking like that. Secondly, Gioconda Ortego Alari from Canada, from the Canadian Canada Climate Action Expert Deployment Mechanism. And thirdly, Maurice Lokosu, who is a managing director from CDC Benin, that's Caisse de Dépôt et Consignement in Benin. I'm hoping that the tech is going to work and that I'm very pleased to welcome Luis to join us to make an intervention. And I know it's very early in the morning for Luis. I believe it's 5 o'clock in the US. So Luis, we'll go carefully. We'll go gently with you.
Thank you, Gareth, and good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Luis Tineo, and I'm in Washington. It is 5 a.m., so I'm using my fresh energy to join this panel. Incidentally, very happy to partner with you, Gareth, and colleagues from the African Development Bank in this initiative. I will briefly add to the work that Mr. Kariuki said in terms of the urgent need to bring smart solutions to the climate crisis. And I think that the SIP Climate Investment Fund is well positioned to take on this. Since 2008, we have been in business, and the idea behind our design is to make transformational change. And we mean by transformational change, adding new innovations in the climate finance. And by doing that, we are trying to do it in a way that is incentivizing the private sector and private market by providing financing that is competitive, that reduces risk for investors, that lower barriers for new technologies, and scale. And in scale, we mean facilitating the co-financing. Our ratio in financing is 1 to 8. So that means that we are bringing and catalyzing significant additional private sector finance, precisely because of the green finance. For that, I think that the SIP is by now one of the most critical funds in the market. We have projects in over 70 developing countries, more than 400 countries, in about portfolio of about $62 billion. So in the case of this conference, I think that the SIP is relevant. Priorities in Africa are significant, and we understand that in Africa, solutions would never come out of the public pressure.
Luis, can I interrupt you for 1 second, please? We don't have you on video, and we need to disconnect you and then reconnect. So can you just hold on for 1 minute, please? Okay, I think we're ready to start again. Okay, now we're seeing you.
Okay, terrific. I see myself as well. So sad. But I was saying, rounding, initial thoughts to let my fellow panelists go on. I was saying contextualizing the role of the states in Africa, in indicating that for us, Africa is an important priority, incentivizing private sector development and for climate action is quite an important goal. And for that, receiving financing on the reasonable, affordable terms, is a key priority. And I think that we are doing very well. Examples such as our lending rates in South Africa are quite impressive. If you see also how much concessional financing from the state has allowed to leverage external funds, such as those from the multilateral development banks, particularly the African Development Bank, the private sector, all for the purpose of co-financing, has been also impressive, mobilizing, more than 10 times as much money as the one that we are doing. But the fundamental transformational change that we are promoting comes out of our concessional finance to enable four basic things. The first is the proof of concept investments. The second is test innovative financial approaches, fundamentally dealing with risk mitigation in certain markets, and ultimately bring socioeconomic solutions related to just transition and climate finance. There are many examples. I don't want to overwhelm you now with these, but we are very proud of partnering in Kenya with the Geothermal Development Company, combining public and private financing along with risk mitigation to improve the commercial viability of projects. And I think that we are doing very well. We are adding significant power generation in the country out of this, and in many ways is attentive for the type of projects that we hope to discuss in this time with the green banks. I'll stop here, Garrett, for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luis. And let me just acknowledge also the impact that the country programming funds that we receive through the climate investment funds have for us. In fact, the early work that we did on the Green Banks initiative was funded through technical assistance funds or country programming funds that we received from the climate investment funds, and they enabled us to undertake a study in 6 CIF countries to explore the potential opportunities and barriers to the creation of green banks. And that is what led to the ongoing work that is now actually contributing to the work which my colleague Audrey is leading to create the African Green Financing Facilities Fund and our Green Banks Initiative, which is sort of supporting the work with Kenya here as well. And also just to mention sort of further scope and development around the green banks, we also are hoping that we will be successful in mobilizing resources from the Green Climate Fund to support the Rwandan Green Investment Facility. So we see now there are at least 4 countries, 5 if you add South Africa, which also received funds from the Green Climate Fund. There are now at least 5 initiatives that are moving forward with green banks, which we think is a great development. So I'd just like to acknowledge the support that we've received from the climate investment funds for doing some of that early work, which is often one of the major barriers. So thank you for that. And with that, I'm going to move to our second panelist, which is Maris Locoso from CDC Benin. She's the managing director there. Maris, are you online and can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you well and we can see you. Thank you.
général de la Caisse de dépôt et consignation du Bénin. Je voudrais donc remercier la Banque africaine de développement et les fonds d'investissement climatique, organisateurs de la Semaine africaine du climat, pour ce panel.
Maurice, can I ask you to pause for a second? Do we have translation? Can we have a second? Maurice, give us a second while people get headsets because myself included, we're deficient. Okay. Yes, it's okay now. I think people have had a chance to get their headsets, myself included. So I think we're ready to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So, je disais que je voudrais remercier la Banque africaine de développement et les fonds d'investissement climatique qui sont les organisateurs de la Semaine africaine du climat pour ce panel et pour l'invitation qui offre à la CDC Bénin une exposition qui nous permet donc de partager la vision et les ambitions du Bénin et de sa caisse de dépôt et consignation sur les sujets verts et leur impact en termes de développement durable pour notre pays. Alors, nous avons prévu une présentation. Je ne sais pas si vous l'avez postée en salle.
Yes, we see the first slide.
OK, thank you. Alors, pour ce qui concerne le premier point, à savoir donc, le leadership du Bénin sur ces sujets climatiques, plusieurs facteurs doivent être considérés dans le rôle de locomotive que le Bénin joue en faveur d'actions climatiques dans la zone ouest africaine. Et je voudrais entre autres citer une volonté politique forte de l'État du Bénin dans l'action climatique. Et cette volonté se traduit par la participation du Bénin à tout un tas d'accords internationaux, à l'instar de la ratification de l'accord de Paris d'octobre 2016 et également de l'élaboration du Fonds national d'adaptation au changement climatique, qui est en cohérence avec la contribution déterminée au niveau national, suivant les accords de Paris. Et les investissements, je voudrais également évoquer les investissements dans les énergies renouvelables à travers plusieurs projets couvrant la période 2016 à 2023. Et à titre d'exemple, je voudrais citer un projet important pour le Bénin, qui est celui de renforcement de la résilience au secteur de l'énergie aux impacts des changements climatiques au Bénin. Ce projet intervient dans 25 communes du Bénin et a permis plusieurs réalisations, dont l'installation de 10 centrales solaires photovoltaïques qui fournissent l'énergie renouvelable dans 5 localités hors réseau et l'accès aujourd'hui à plus de 150 000 habitants dans 8 communes du Bénin en zone rurale qui ont désormais accès à une énergie propre. Je voudrais également parler de la promotion de l'agriculture durable. Le Bénin a mis en place en 2017 un Fonds national de développement de l'agriculture dont l'objectif est de promouvoir l'investissement privé dans le secteur agricole et de l'orienter par des subventions ciblées et des investissements financiers adaptés. Alors, je suis sur la slide 2 pour l'instant.
Audrey, slide 2, please. You've gone too far, Audrey. Can you go back?
Alors, je voudrais également parler donc, de l'éducation et de la sensibilisation, qui constitue également un volet important pour le Bénin. Et sur ce volet, il convient d'évoquer l'enseignement technique et la formation professionnelle avec l'élaboration d'une stratégie nationale de l'ETFP et la construction également de 30 lycées agricoles dans les collectivités territoriales du Bénin. Je voudrais également citer la collaboration régionale parce que le Bénin fait partie d'un écosystème qui consiste donc à participer aux projets et programmes de la zone liénoise dans laquelle se trouve le Bénin. Et enfin, je voudrais parler de l'adaptation au changement climatique, qui est donc le sujet que nous avons ici, et indiquer que le Bénin dispose réglementaire et institutionnelle favorable à la protection de l'environnement et à la gestion des changements climatiques. En résumé, donc, à travers tous ces points que je viens d'évoquer, je voudrais rappeler et réaffirmer que le Bénin, mon pays, a défini le cadre nécessaire à la mise en œuvre des investissements dans le domaine de la finance du climat. En slide 3, je rappelle ici quelques indicateurs qui viennent confirmer les acquis de la stratégie globale de l'État du Bénin en faveur du climat. Et je peux évoquer ici le fait que le Bénin soit le premier pays africain, à réaliser une émission d'eurobonds ODD, donc objectif de développement durable, de 500 millions d'euros en juillet 2021. Ce sont des ressources qui sont exclusivement orientées au financement de projets divers à caractère social et environnemental afin de contribuer aux engagements du Bénin pour l'atteinte des buts. Je voudrais également évoquer le fait que le Bénin, à travers la Caisse de dépôt et consignation du Bénin, ainsi que la Côte d'Ivoire, sont les deux premiers pays en Afrique de l'Ouest qui vont bénéficier de l'assistance technique de la BAD, que je remercie, par le biais de l'African Green Finance Facility Fund, en vue de la mise en place de cette facilité verte. Et nous sommes vraiment engagés aujourd'hui sur la concrétisation de cette opportunité pour qu'elle soit opérationnelle dès le second semestre 2024. Enfin, le rapport sur le développement durable 2023 place pour la deuxième année consécutive le Bénin parmi les pays à fort engagement en faveur des ODD. Il est classé en 2023 5e sur 74 pays à l'échelle mondiale et je pense que c'est quelque chose qui mérite d'être souligné et qui montre bien l'engagement et les efforts du gouvernement du Bénin en faveur du climat et dans la mise en œuvre de l'agenda 2030. 4, je voudrais citer et revenir sur le fait que la CDC Bénin est une pionnière au Bénin et dans la sous-région en matière d'investissement et de financement, ayant un impact réel sur la qualité de l'environnement. La CDC agit comme un investisseur institutionnel responsable et de long terme. Et nous contribuons donc à l'impulsion du développement économique et social en investissant dans des actes adéquats en lien avec nos missions. Nous sommes dans une démarche qui consiste à verdir notre portefeuille d'actifs. Et pour y arriver, je voudrais citer quelques projets. Donc la CDC Bénin a co-développé avec le groupe RISE, la zone économique spéciale de Gauthier, dont je peux citer ici quelques avantages de la. Donc aujourd'hui, sur la zone économique spéciale de Gauthier, nous avons des usines de dernière génération qui permettent la préservation de l'environnement. En ce sens que nous avons des activités de conservation d'eau et de récupération des eaux de pluie. Nous avons également installé des panneaux solaires sur les toits de toutes les usines et les structures de construction pour maximiser l'utilisation de l'énergie. Nous avons également reboisé le site avec un minimum d'un arbre pour chaque 80 mètres carrés. Il faut dire qu'il y a même une forêt sacrée à l'intérieur de ce site qui a été conservée. Et nous avons mis en œuvre un plan de gestion environnementale pour assurer le respect des conditions environnementales. Et à terme, 300 000 emplois seront créés sur les 1400 hectares qui abritent donc cette chose. Nous avons également aujourd'hui 3 usines de groupement fonctionnels qui permettent la création de 15 000 emplois, 6 unités de transformation. Et d'ailleurs, vous voyez une photo de la visite récente que j'ai effectuée donc, la semaine dernière dans cette usine de transformation donc, et de production de vêtements textiles. Donc c'est une réalité. Cette usine est fonctionnelle. Vous avez également 6 unités de transformation d'Anaka, dont 2 sont également fonctionnelles avec 6 000 emplois directs et une unité de transformation d'orange et d'ananas qui sont fonctionnelles touchant 7 000 agriculteurs du secteur et un programme de 100 000 logements sociaux avec une phase pilote de 12 000 logements incluant donc un mix énergétique et bien sûr des projets de développement de parcs solaires, de centrales à gaz pour améliorer les sujets de transition énergétique du Bénin et la mise à disposition d'une énergie à moins de coût. Slide 5, s'il vous plaît. Pour en venir maintenant donc à la facilité verte en elle-même, je voudrais indiquer ici que la mise en place de la facilité verte par la Caisse de dépôt et consignation du Bénin consacre les efforts du Bénin qui est donc engagé dans les actions d'impact positif sur le climat, comme j'ai pu le démontrer précédemment. Et donc cette facilité verte mise en place par la CDC Bénin favorisera entre autres la mobilisation de ressources supplémentaires pour des projets et des programmes liés à la stratégie de mobilisation, à la stratégie béninoise sur le changement climatique. Et cela permettra de favoriser, en fait, de renforcer les ressources disponibles pour permettre au Bénin de mettre en œuvre ses engagements pris en matière climatique. Cette facilité viendra également nous apporter un soutien technique et de l'expertise pour aider le Bénin à développer et à mettre en œuvre des projets climatiques de manière efficace. Cela inclut la conception de projets d'énergie propre, d'adaptation au changement climatique et de développement durable. Cette facilité nous permettra également de renforcer les capacités locales en matière de gestion de projets climatiques, de collecte de données climatiques et de suivi des progrès. Et elle nous aidera également à promouvoir des professionnels béninois dans les domaines liés au climat. Nous allons également pouvoir soutenir des initiatives locales spécifiques liées au changement climatique, tels que des projets d'agriculture durable, d'énergie renouvelable, de protection côtière et d'infrastructures résilientes. Grâce à cette facilité, nous allons pouvoir développer la coordination et l'alignement des projets durables avec la stratégie du Bénin sur le changement climatique et avec les objectifs internationaux tels que ceux de l'accord de Paris. Et enfin, nous allons pouvoir également développer et améliorer le suivi et l'évaluation pour mesurer les impacts des projets climatiques financiers, garantissant ainsi leur efficacité et leur conformité aux ODD et aux objectifs climatiques. Vous voyez donc que cette facilité verte pour le Bénin est primordiale dans sa volonté de renforcer donc, ses actions en faveur du climat. En slide 6, donc, pour vous présenter un peu la timeline de la mise en œuvre de cette facilité, nous avons commencé le processus, ça va CDC a commencé ce processus depuis le 6 avril 2023. Et l'objectif est de l'achever en mars 2024. La mise en place de la facilité verte du Bénin se fait donc en plusieurs étapes sur une durée de 12 mois. Donc nous avons déjà franchi les étapes 2 que vous voyez dans la timeline, à savoir donc, la phase préparatoire et le diagnostic. Pour les prochaines étapes, qui sont les étapes 3 et 4, donc la préparation de l'assistance technique et le recrutement du consortium, pour cette assistance technique, elles sont en cours et elles sont donc du ressort de la Banque africaine de développement à travers donc, le stage de croisette. Ces étapes sont prévues pour être achevées d'ici 15 septembre 2023. Et à l'issue de cette phase, nous allons donc pouvoir lancer l'assistance technique à proprement parler avec le consortium qui sera retenu. Et cette étape permettra de réaliser le plan d'assistance technique qui prévoit un accompagnement sur la structuration opérationnelle, financière et le soutien institutionnel. Elle va permettre à l'institution de bénéficier d'une feuille de route climat, de construire la démarche genre et l'inclusion au niveau des projets, de mettre en place un système de management de la durabilité pour l'activité de financement et d'investissement, de mettre en place un suivi et un reporting de la durabilité, de renforcer les compétences des collaborateurs de l'institution en matière de durabilité et de créer et de structurer donc, cette facilité verte tout en construisant un pipeline de projets verts. Alors, en slide 7, je rappelais quelques chiffres clés de l'institution que j'ai aujourd'hui l'honneur de diriger. Donc, au 30 juin, nous avons un total bilan de 1,3 milliard d'euros. Donc, ces réalisations se sont faites en 3 ans. Je voudrais donc ici saluer l'engagement des équipes et du gouvernement du Bénin à créer une CDC forte. Donc, nous avons des fonds propres à hauteur de 168 millions d'euros, un résultat net consolidé de 49 millions d'euros et des financements approuvés pour 400 Et je voudrais ici conclure en remerciant encore une fois donc, les organisateurs pour avoir associé la CDC Bénin à cet événement. Et je voudrais insister donc sur la nécessité de mobiliser les ressources en Inde auprès de donateurs privés et concessionnaires pour combler le déficit de financement public. Et j'invite donc à cette occasion les bailleurs de fonds à visiter le Bénin, qui est un pays qui bouge, qui est très actif, et à nous accompagner à relever les défis donc, liés au changement climatique. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Maurice, thank you very much indeed. That was a real tour de force, a tremendous presentation. Actually, as I listened, I had to score off all the questions I was going to ask you because you really covered everything very well. And I thank you very much indeed for your very clear Gantt chart that showed the steps to be taken in the process of creating a green financing institution. And this actually segues very well to our next speaker, who I'll come to in a minute, because it's this technical assistance to help create the institution that we are going through now. This is what we raised the money from the technical assistance facility, from the climate investment funds, and also from the the Climate Action Africa expert deployment mechanism funded by the Canadian government. So this technical assistance is ongoing now with CDC Benin and also with BNI in Côte d'Ivoire. In Kenya, we are in the process of raising money to provide similar kind of support to help in the creation of the Kenyan Green Bank. We're also working with our colleagues from Pollination, a couple of who are here in the room as well, to work with us on that process. And after we've completed the technical assistance and putting in place those the skills and the resources necessary to manage a green investment facility, that's when we then move to the fundraising, which again, Maurice talked a little bit about. There we hope to mobilize resources from a range of different donors, including concessional funds from international sources such as the Green Climate Fund, maybe the Climate Investment Funds, I don't know. We'll have to see, from bilateral donors, and then the African Development Bank, and sort of then moving through to commercial funds from commercial investors and so on. So that's how the plan will unfold. And I'm really excited to hear that you expect to be operational by Q1, Q2 next year, because to go through this process inside a period of 12 months is no mean achievement. I mean, these days it takes 12 months just to prepare a project proposal and submit it, but actually to go from soup to nuts in 12 months is a great achievement, and it shows your dedication. I have one quick question. Can you say a little bit more about the sources of finance? Because we know that green banks, or at least we hope that green banks have this potential to mobilize sources from diaspora and from government revenues, as well as from international investors, and to work in both local and hard currencies. Could you say a little bit more about how you're going to mobilize resources? Oh, okay. I'm getting a signal that we should move on. So, Maurice, you can hold off on that question, and let's move to our final speaker, which is Gioconda from the Climate Action Africa expert deployment mechanism. Gioconda, can you hear me? And are you online? Yes. Great. We can see you. You have the floor.
Okay, great. Pleasure to be here. Well, greetings everyone. Greetings and bonjour. Greetings from Prince Edward of Canada. I am here today with my colleague, Laurent Fossilly, who is in the audience. Laurent, can you please raise your hand? Laurent is our renewable energy advisor, the expert leading this initiative with the Green Banks initiative. I would like to start sharing with you what Gareth already mentioned, that CAA is a government of Canada funded initiative, to support public, private, civil society organizations, and academia in sub-Saharan Africa by providing them what is most needed, technical assistance for the implementation of their climate action. By doing so, climate action Africa supports sub-Saharan Africa countries in meeting their commitments under the Paris Agreement. Climate Action Africa is a flexible, non-driven, rapid response mechanism that responds to locally identified needs of sub-Saharan Africa countries in climate change action through three interconnected pillars: climate change governance, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and women's leadership in climate action. We provide technical assistance into two windows. One is the request for technical support, and number two is outside exchanges. To tap into these opportunities, visit our website at www.climatechangeafrica.ca and send your request. And if you have further questions, you please reach out to our employees via group. Now, we're very proud to have partnered with the Department of the Development Bank in this important information. We both have the African Development Bank in Canada and America have a common goal, and that is climate finance and supporting climate action in Africa. And by supporting this, we are also supporting the UNC goals. African countries face significant challenges, including the lack of tailored trade responsive investment, limited capacities of local financial institutions, and insufficient private sector mobilization. When it comes to financing the energy transition, particularly investment needs resulting from the national credit contributions. The main barriers to advancing the green gender responsive finance agenda in Africa comprise the shortage of commercially bankable projects, coupled with the inability of local financial institutions to originate, structure, and execute the green opportunities that are available. To address that, the African Development Bank is working towards setting up the African Credit Facility Fund, and in collaboration with Canada and Africa, allow local financial institutions, such as the under specific base of the CBCE of Kenya, to structure and implement a gender responsive green bank initiative. In this specific case, CAA, we will support the preliminary studies that will help lay the foundations of this initiative. We play an important role in supporting the foundational structure of CBCD Green Bank project by ensuring that it's gender responsive and socially inclusive by conducting preliminary technical and analytical studies that include the analysis of the existing green financial system, analysis of the challenges hindering an optimal resource allocation, bankability for small projects, analysis of the institutional, regulatory, fiscal, and local environment, and the identification and evaluation of a pipeline of relevant projects and potential projects. Now, to conclude, important to say that while the primary beneficiary in this specific case is the case of the Consumer Domain, the ultimate beneficiaries of these partnerships are the public and private sector stakeholders we need, who will implement the responsive climate mitigation and Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Gioconda. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are spot on time, actually, which is great. And at this stage, then, I can open the floor for some questions. We have two microphones. And I know it's coming up to lunchtime and so on, but we have 10 minutes for some questions and answers. So who would like to take the floor to ask a question? And I hope you ask, otherwise I'll ask questions and then I just, it's like talking, you hear too much from me. So please, somebody else. Audrey, I'm sure you have a question.
1, 2. 1, 2. Mic check.
Okay, we even have some roving mics as well, but we don't have any questions. Yes, please, the gentleman here in the front in the brown jacket. There's a microphone coming your way. Just hold on. Anybody else? Okay, please tell us your name and affiliation and your question, please.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Hassan. I'm a conservation, environment, and peace activist. And at times I also try to make a sort of work on policy making. My question is straight and to the point. We have talked a lot about climate and climate change. Do we have enough good infrastructure in country, continent, and the world, whereby they are getting a lot of deluge, catastrophes, etc.? The developers have developed the world, fair enough, but when such deluge occurs, it drains and drains right into the rivers and ocean. And we all know development has taken the space of the world by putting on tarmac, gabbro tiles, etc., etc. Water has no way to be harvested. Number two, when the funds are being given out to the third world countries, etc., or developers, I will give my example. Suppose if I want to make an investment, I propose to the bank, they ask for the profile, etc., and I hand it over to them. Do they, suppose they've given me loan free, interest-free loan, yeah, or grant, whatever you want to call it, are these funds been followed up, scrutinized, whether it has gone to the right channel, at the right place, to the right people, and it has been invested accordingly the way it was proposed? That's all.
Yes, thank you very much. Any other questions? Do any of our panelists want to respond to that? Otherwise, sorry, hold on. We have one more question here. Let's take a second question, and then we'll respond.
Hello, everyone. I come from the renewable energy sector, and I had the chance in a previous life to
What's your name?
Baptiste Bergès, to work on the Lake Turkana wind farms that was funded by FDB. I now have an interest in nature-based solution and carbon sequestration. I see there are very established business models that are conducive for investment in the renewable energy sector, and some similarities between renewable energy sector and carbon removals. So I'd like to ask a question if anyone has a view to support investment in carbon removals, what is needed so that it becomes something at scale, especially if we do carbon removals with nature-based solution.
Great, thank you very much. I think maybe I can invite Maurice to respond a little bit on what you do to monitor the use of your funds. No? You want to answer or will I? You answer. Okay, so Audrey's going to answer that.
Yes,
sorry.
for the Mr. in the front, thank you very much for your question. It's a very relevant question because this is exactly what local green banks are supposed to tackle. What we are doing with those green investment vehicles will be your interlocutor as project developer. So it's not only climate and environment, it's embedded in infrastructure, in agriculture, in transport. So it's covering all the sector. We need to shape and to transform the way we build projects to make sure that environment, climate, gender are embedded in the structure of our project. And to ease the access of the resources which are needed to make those projects happen on the ground, we are working with the financial intermediaries, your commercial banks, to make available at their level the type of fundings needed to make your project happen and also bankable to attract private investor so you will reach the level of fundings you need for your project. So thank you, and I'll give the floor to Garrett for the second question because you are lucky you have the expert on the ground on the floor.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we didn't introduce Audrey. Audrey Yamajako, she's the coordinator of our Green Banks Initiative and the African Green Financing Facility Fund, and she organized today's panel. Thank you, Audrey. So let me come to the second question from Baptiste about investment into carbon removals. So yes, I think the answer is yes. I mean, the idea is that these green banks will invest in low carbon, climate resilient, Paris aligned activities that are designed to help countries meet the Paris Agreement. I mean, whether an individual bank would make that particular investment will depend on the the board and the guidance and their objectives that they've set up. But broadly speaking, the idea is that these institutions will focus on Paris-aligned activities, as I say, low carbon, climate resilient, that wouldn't otherwise be funded. And they will receive concessional funds to invest in those activities because there's no other way. Well, there are other ways. I mean, you can give the funds to the MDBs, but it can also be more effective to work at a local level where you have a local institution that is conversant with the local risks and the local issues and so on. So yes, my expectation is that we would see these kinds of institutions supporting investments in these key areas around things like carbon removals, nature-based solutions. And I might also say, we've seen some very interesting developments around green bonds recently and financing instruments for nature-based solutions like the Rhino bond. And there was another carbon market-based instrument that was implemented through Citi with the World Bank in Vietnam. And there are a lot of very interesting instruments that could be developed, and the role of a national green financing facility or green bank in those kinds of instruments could really be, I think that could be transformational. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're just about running out of time. So I'm going to wind up unless there's any other pressing questions. I don't see anybody raising their hand. Oh, we have one more, just before the hammer fell.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia. I represent an organization called Mama Watoto from Kajiado, the grassroots level at the very bottom. So we've been hearing about private investment and climate change, and we're wondering our role as women at the grassroots when it comes to banking and such activities. So I'm asking, my question is about the village savings and community-based table banking activities that we do. Do they have a chance of being funded so that they can be amplified, so that the voices at the grassroots can be amplified through funding? Because that is what we lack. Actually, given a chance at the grassroots level, all these problems can just be solved. Only that we don't get the funding.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, again, the answer is yes. The whole idea with a local green financing institution is that you are working with people who are already in the country, they already understand the risks, and they're able to work at a level of whether it's a line of credit to a microfinancing institution or whether it's actually giving loans directly to small and micro enterprises and so on. And I mean, you heard in the presentation from Maurice and also from Gioconda how important gender is. Gender has to be mainstreamed into all of these activities because we know that when you lend money to women, it gets put to good use and they have better repayment schedules and record or performance than men. And we know that women-led businesses are central. So yes, we want to see these institutions lending to grassroots. And if it's too small, then these institutions can work with microfinance institutions and so on. So I hope that's answered your question. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Davina.
So I wanted to respond very quickly on the initiative we have at the African Development Bank that really addresses the challenge that she articulated very well, banking for the unbankable. It's called Making Finance Work for Africa. And that initiative basically creates the infrastructure, the network to move finance for the people, like you said, banking on the table. And that's where the money is actually on this continent. And so that Making Finance initiative, it's a multi-donor, multi-institution arrangement, but hosted at the African Development Bank, is part of a framework which this initiative is also part of, called the Africa Financial Alliance on Climate Change. It was launched at this summit. It has a whole network of. So yeah, you will be hearing more of what we can do with that constituency. It was a very influential constituency. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And that was Davina Uwela Milange, who works in the front office of our department, the Climate Change and Green Growth at the African Development Bank. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close now. Thank you very much indeed for your attention. I'd like you to give a round of applause to our speakers online. I don't know if they're still there. Dr. Kariuki, who's left us, and also to congratulate yourselves for your stamina and enthusiasm to still be here attending events at lunchtime on the last day. Thank you very much indeed. answer and to speak. Yes.